payment platforms are interoperable. As we speak now, we have two main platforms in Ghana that we are responsible for. The traditional banking platform, which is the GH-Link platform, and the eSwitch electronic platform, which we've been operating the last 10 years or so. The two platforms are currently interoperable, which means that you can actually move funds from your eSwitch platform into your traditional bank account and vice versa.
Well, just a bit of education for our viewers at home. The Ghana Interbank Payments and Settlement System, GIPS, is a wholly owned subsidiary of the central bank and is expected to play a key role in plans to achieve the interoperability of the telecom and financial sector. Mr. Hesse, I mean, just before we talk about the practicality or otherwise of the Vice President's proposal to have the economy fully formalized by the end of 2017, just run us through a bit of your achievement over the past 10 years.
Yes, it feels like yesterday when we all started. You remember we had significant issues or serious issues in the country when it comes to payment systems. I'm talking about if you want a bank account 10 years ago, there is a need for you to know someone who has a banking relationship for him or her to recommend you. I remember 10 years ago as well, when you sign checks within region, it takes about 3 days for checks to clear, or inter-regional checks takes about 7 days plus for them to clear. I remember very well that if you have a local card, you can only use your own bank's ATMs, and that's about it. So we had serious, significant limitations when it comes to the payment systems in Ghana. 10 years on, we can actually boast of a biometric banking and retail system that is was actually came in to pull in funds from the informal sector to the formal sector. You remember 10 years ago, most of the banks were around Accra, Kumasi, and Takrady, and that's about it. But there were other banking requirements in the regions, but we didn't have enough banks there. As we speak now, over the weekend, I was going through my phone, and a lot of registrations using the eSwitch platform was going on around the Elubu, the Volta region, enrolling all the cocoa farmers in that area. Each and every cocoa farmer that has been enrolled has a full-fledged bank account. All the funds that he or she pledges on his or his eSwitch wallet, it's funds that would otherwise reside outside the banking system. So we have a platform that we can now use to pull funds from outside from the informal sector into the banking sector. We've also modernized the check clearing system. It now takes what, a day or next day, as compared to the 3 days, 7 days, etc. that I spoke about.
But of course, there have been a number of challenges, haven't there?
On. Yes, there has been challenges. There are challenges with every initiative of this magnitude. But the benefits and the successes far outweighs the challenges that we've encountered.
Tell me, how realistic is it to achieve a full formalization of the economy by the end of November 2017 as posited by the Vice President?
Yes, what is left for us to do, there are a couple of things apart from the two that I spoke about. That's the eSwitch platform and the traditional bank platforms that are currently fully interoperable. What we are left to do to bridge the last leg is to, one, ensure that all the mobile money companies are interoperable, which means that you can send funds from MTN to Tigo and vice versa, or if you are a Tigo customer and you come across a Vodafone merchant, you'll be able to make payments without any hindrances, which currently doesn't exist. So we are going to ensure that the mobile money companies, or the current 4 that we have in the country, are fully interoperable. Secondly, we are also going to make sure that funds can be transferred from mobile money into traditional bank accounts and vice versa. And thirdly, the possibility of transferring funds from your mobile money account onto your eSwitch wallet and vice versa.
With regards to the telecom firms, is that what generated the whole uproar and furore? It's surrounding a certain contract that the government of Ghana, the Bank of Ghana, I beg your pardon, is alleged to have given to Septim or so? Is that the whole
Yeah, that's an issue that you have to take it up with the central bank. What I want to focus on is what we have been given and the task that we want to do.
You don't want to talk about that, do you?
I don't know much about it. So I wasn't there when the contract was signed. I don't know. I don't have
Is
any knowledge.
is it something GIBS on its own could have done?
Well, we've been given the challenge now. And when, like any project, when you are given, the first thing you do is to ascertain what the business requirements are. What exactly do you want to do? And that's what we're going through now. So we've had engagements with the mobile money companies, and of course this week as well, we're continuing with the universal banks.
Are they prepared to allow that to happen?
They are very willing. They something that all our engagement with them has been very positive. And we've come out with a comprehensive list of activities or services that will be classified under the umbrella of mobile money. And we would fine-tune it with the universal banks. And once that is completed, we'll then look at what kind of systems do we need in order to bring it to pass. We do have some systems in-house. Which of our systems will be able to satisfy them? Will there be a need for us to upgrade it, look for additional software, etc.?
Will that require GIBS tapping into the systems of the telecom firms?
When you say telecom, I talk about the mobile money networks.
Yeah.
What will happen is that you would have to integrate. Once we've come out with a comprehensive list of requirements, we'll then come out with a system definition. And that would then be like the blueprint for us to talk.
Do we know how much this is likely to cost?
Before you be able to ascertain exactly how much it's going to cost, there's a need for us to finish our system definitions, to know what kind of systems are needed for the business requirements that we need to satisfy. But it's important to note that we currently have interoperability within the banking sector. That's why you are able to use Bank A's card on all the various banks. So we do have some infrastructure in-house already, and of course some experience. The little interactions that we've had with the telcos indicates that the difference between interoperating the mobile money companies won't be that different from what we already done with the banking sector. We're talking about to interpret the banking sector, you need to be able to uniquely identify each bank, which we use a sort code, and then we differentiate each bank customer from their bank account number. We're going to use the same principle. We'll devise a unique code for each and every mobile money company, and we're going to use your mobile number as sort of similar to your bank account, and it's going to be business as usual.
So there are a number of prerequisites that need to be met before we're able to achieve this 2017 deadline, as stated by the Vice President. Maybe my very final question to you is, how will these systems be secured, you know, in an era where we're talking of hackers hacking into systems and all that?
Yeah, the assurance I can give you is that since inception, when it comes to eSwitch in particular, we've never had a single fraud associated with them. And the security measures that we've put in place with our systems are world class. And we are fairly confident that if you continue along those lines, we shouldn't have any problems. You never say never do, but...
I said final, but this is going to be my final 10 years anniversary.
Yes.
What is lined up?
Well, we will start with a public lecture on Monday, 29th of May at the British Council. It's going to be, the topic is going to be evolution of payment systems, and by invitation only. And on the, what do you call it, on that's going to be on Monday. We also have a program lineup on the Wednesday itself. That's the celebration day itself. It's going to take place at Movenpick on the 10th of at 10 a.m. on the 31st of May.
All right.
We would also plan that on Thursday we'll go to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital to offer some donation for them. They are within our neighborhood. They've supported us in the past.
So you seem to have lots of
we have a whole 1 week's program.
I'm going to say a big thank you to you for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Archie Hesse is the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System, telling us all about your plans towards achieving full formalization of the economy by 2017, ensuring interoperability within the telecom sector, and essentially ensuring financial inclusion within the economy. I will take a short break. When we return, my guest is Dr. Ishmael Yamson. I'll tell you more about him when we return. Right, welcome back to your most authoritative business and economic analysis program live here on TV3, and if you just joined us, this is Business Focus. My name is Parkwisi Asare. Next on the table, I'm going to be speaking to a man who served on virtually all the multinational firms in this country, an astute businessman by all standards. He's got a lot of credentials to his name. I'm talking about Dr. Ishmael Yamson. Doc, good to have you on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
He's going to be helping me talk about the general business environment. As a man who served in multinational companies, got lots of deep insights into the running of economies. He's also served, worked in other African economies, and he's got lots of insights into the operations of businesses. Doc, once again, thank you very much for your time. Let me start off by finding out from you if you are optimistic about development within the economy.
Thank you very much. Yes, I think I'm very optimistic. At least the reports coming out of the central bank this morning from the NPC meeting would show that almost all the indicators are trending in the right direction.
Now, when you say indicators, I'm sure you're talking about inflation.
I'm talking about
exchange rates.
Exactly. I'm talking about. You can see that from the beginning of the year, the cedi has stabilized quite strongly. There's been only 1% depreciation from January to 18th of May recently. Apart from that, we also know that inflation has been coming down, both core inflation and the composite index is showing that both businesses and individuals are all growing in confidence about the economy. I believe that it is true that revenues have not been that strong, but because government has been very good at controlling expenditures, for the first time the deficit has not been that strong. And in fact, for the first time in many years, we recorded a trade surplus in the first 3 months of this year. So altogether, I think that the government has started well. The key thing here is consistency. How long can we sustain this good performance and over a longer period? Because in this country, we have always talked about very positive medium term, which always seems to elude us. So what is important is not so much what we achieved in the short term. It's good, it's rewarding, but what are we going to do to ensure that we sustain it over a much longer period?
All right, so it's exciting to hear you talk about positivity within the economy. Indeed, at the start of this year, 2017, with the first Monetary Policy Committee meeting, we had the policy committee. We had the committee reduce the policy rate by 200 basis points. Now we've seen a reduction only today by 100 basis points from 22.5 to from 23.5 to 22.5. Yeah. But the big question is this likely to, you know, affect interest rates? That's a big question.
No, I think that, you see, it should, but I don't think that it will be immediate. Why? Because the banks take positions before these reductions. And I even think that perhaps we could have gone, the central bank could have gone a little bit more than 100 basis points.
Oh, you expected 200 basis points?
I think that they could have done 200 basis points. But of course, they also need to be cautious. Because if your revenues are not growing as fast as you expect, then you need to be...
Absolutely. Exactly. And that's why one of the reasons they cited was due to balanced rates to inflation and growth, you know, which kept them at 100 basis points. Yes. But so you talk about government having started well. Indeed, in the government's own manifesto, they enumerated a number of policies and programs they intended to roll up when they come into government. What, in your view, of all the numerous policies, what, in your view, would you consider as most business-friendly?
Well, there have been some reductions in taxes, but for me, those are not very strategic.
Why so?
Why? It's I mean, you reduce taxes, probably for the very short term, you will get the results, all right? But I think the strategic way of doing this is to say over the next 3, 4, 5 years, what levels of, what tax regime do we need to drive private sector growth, for instance? It could well be that the reductions we have seen are the beginning, but we need to understand where are we going from here? Are we going to ensure a low tax regime over 3, 4, 5 years period, or we did this just to demonstrate that we have good intentions? But good intentions are not strategic, you see, because anything can happen and your good intentions might suddenly change. So the private sector or any investor would like to see a framework over a period of time. So we need to talk more strategic. For instance, let me just give you an example. I would like to see some fundamental policy shifts. For instance, what are we doing about land policy? What are we doing about the whole investment climate? We know that the government wants to establish a positive macro environment. But what does that mean? Does it mean low interest regime, low inflation regime? If low inflation, we say 8 plus or minus 2%. But it's not adequate, because if you go to Francophone, they are talking about 6%. So we've
got to start from somewhere.
We've got to start from somewhere. But I'm saying that we start with 8 plus or minus 2, but we want to end at 6 plus or minus 2 in 5 years' time. So I'm saying let's be a bit strategic going forward. Actions are good, but I think the way to do this is to say we are starting from here, but that's where we want to end. Because see, if I'm going to take an investment decision to invest, let's say $100 million or $50 million in this country, I'm not looking at today. I'm looking 5, 10, 15.
Long term. Exactly,
from here. So I need to understand where this country is going to go medium to long term.
It's good to talk to hear you talk about investment, and it was one of the areas I was going to go to. I need to pick your thoughts on the recent reforms that the new GIPC board is hoping to undertake to encourage a lot more investment. Are they satisfactory enough?
Well, to be honest with you, I have had problems with the existing GIPC law, because I thought that we suddenly became very protective in that law. And not only that, the barriers that we set for investors to come into this country were beginning to grow. I mean,
protectionists like what, for instance? Reserving certain portions, areas only for locals?
Quite frankly, if you ask me, I would ask you to look at the economies in the world that have grown stronger and tell me how many of those countries really limited areas to their nationals. I think the way we should look at it is that how do we as a country support our nationals to enter any area of their choice? Because we have been reserving this since 1992. These areas, we've been reserving them since 1992 when the first GIPC law was passed.
And you're talking about the retail sector?
Yes. What has happened?
It makes no sense to reserve it for locals?
Well, you can say don't go and trade on tabletop. That's fine. Do you want your citizens to be, experts on tabletops? Or you want your citizens to start thinking about how do we grow our tabletop to a 1 shop, to 2 shops, to 10 shops, to 20 shops, to national?
You're beginning to sound like the GIPC boss, Mr. Yofi Grant. He was speaking the same language when he came here last week. But I asked him one question, that do we want to see a replica of what's occurred in South Africa, where most of the indigents are up in arms against foreigners, saying they have taken over their...
Tell the question the other way around. What was the South African government doing when all their citizens were more or less displaced by foreigners? What did they do? What positive step did they take to help their citizens? So if there is everybody, you go and look at your market. You see, there's a dish here. Probably I have skills that the local people don't have. you have two options. You either go and take a local person and say, come and be my partner, and let's do it together. Or so that the partner uses the opportunity to build up the skills. If you go to the Middle East, for instance, you will not invest in any area without a local partner. That is the policy. I realized
that was what you tried to do with the oil industry.
Exactly.
To cede about 50% to locals.
See, that's what I prefer. That let's make it, because there are skills that we lack. There are skills that we lack. If you go to the retail, you go to the wholesale sector. I mean, for instance, I ran Unilever for many years. We pulled out of the retail business because we thought it was an area where local people could do, and they have got the skills. But they have a very short horizon. They have one shop and they're happy with it. Rather than think about how do I convert this one shop to a national chain.
So we should open up the space.
Yes. Yes.
And allow for competition.
And we not to allow for competition.
Allow for investments.
But we should take positive, real steps to help our local people to think big. But if we say, don't come and baba, right? Okay, you can have one shop, small baba. Somebody spends money and does a modern baba. Which one would you go to? Would you go to the modern baba, or you go to the one who has been in the kiosk in the last 30 years? You see, so you say, no foreigner can go. That's fine. It sounds good in our ears. But is that what we want our local people to be good at?
I'm going to come back to talk to you about corporate governance, because I know it's one area you have a lot of expertise in. But just before, let me just return to the earlier subject about the policy rate. And, you know, many people have criticized the central bank's, formula, for, policy rate. Essentially, it's been targeting inflation targeting over the years.
Yes.
Do you side with that agreement?
You see,
that argument?
You see, I would say yes. Why? Because the value of your currency is probably the most important thing that you want to ensure. It's linked to the inflation.
Right.
Any country, and we have many examples in this world. I mean, even in Africa, look at Zimbabwe. Who wanted to invest in Zimbabwe when 1 billion Zimbabwe dollar was equivalent to $1 US? But that was as a result of inflation.
Yeah.
So make sure that you take hold of inflation. Keep inflation low. If you keep inflation low, what it means that price expectations become low.
Right.
Whereas if inflation is rising, and I'm a good businessman, I would say, well, if inflation will be 20%, then I should recover that cost earlier. So you are driving my price expectations with your higher levels of inflation. That's why central banks all over the world, are very careful about where they pitch their inflation level. But you also remember, not all low levels of inflation is good, because low level of inflation means you are depressing the economy.
Right.
So you need to get to a level where, and that is the argument some of us have been making later, what level of inflation is suitable for Ghana's growth? I sat in a discussion with an Israeli past-raising finance minister who said, for a developing country, look at something like 15% inflation per annum. Today, it will not be accepted by anybody. But let's then come down to say, at what level of inflation can Ghana grow at, say, 10% per annum? We need to have an objective, not just say we want inflation at 8 plus or minus 2%. What will that deliver? Would that generate growth of 10%, 20%, 30%, 5%, 6%, or what? So we should not just pick the figure from the moon. We need to link it to the growth of the economy.
And that's what the
job creation.
Right. Let me come back to corporate governance. The central bank, as part of its new reforms, has said that it intends to cap the tenure for chief executives to, I think, 5 years, 3-year term. Yeah. That's for CEOs. Yeah. And then I think about 2-year term for directors. As part of corporate governance, what do you think?
Well, this is something that is being preached all over the world. But first of all, the question we need to ask is: are we there? Are we in a position to do that? First of all, I look at a lot of things. If I have a CEO who is delivering outstanding performance consistently every year for 10 years, then I say the central bank says after 10 years this man should be kicked out, and I should go and look for somebody that I really do not even understand whether they can do it or not.
But businesses should survive individuals.
Pardon?
Businesses should go beyond individuals.
Yes, but they should go beyond individuals. But that then means that you have to link it back. You have to look at your pipeline. You have to look at the pipeline and say, we have people who are coming through our education, our capacity building, our skills building, our orientation, our exposure, so that when we get rid of these people, we can easily replace them. Because at the end of the day, anybody who invests in a business is not investing because of fun. He is investing because he wants to grow that business. He wants to create value with that business. So if I have a leader who is doing that for me, then you pass a law and say, no, the law says that that leader should go. So I know why they are doing all this. Because
why are they doing this?
They are doing this because we have had all over the world, there are cases of bankers and CEOs who have done bad jobs, who have raped their companies and the rest of it. But that is not the reason why you pass a law as to how long somebody should stay in office. It must be left, because every company, every bank is governed by a board. The board is there. What is the role of that board in determining who is qualified to run that bank? It is good to create a framework, but I would say a rigid regulation which says when you've done 5 years by 3 times, get out. I don't think that is something that is very, it needs to be debated. Because they must have very good reasons why they are talking about that. I don't think that is the right thing to do, because I think that if I have a good person delivering results, delivering outstanding results, I will keep him. If I have somebody who is messing me up, then he only lasts 1 year.
Right.
Then he'll be out.
Right.
So let's leave that decision to the boss of those banks and not to
the determination of a central bank.
No.
Right. Finally, Ishmael Yamson and Associates, you have something coming up?
Yeah, we have a program coming up which we have themed Making Ghana Entrepreneurial. And Making Ghana Entrepreneurial because first the idea came from the finance minister's budget, which I found it's incredibly interesting, because I think the reason why we are where we are is that we don't behave as a people. It's not only government, it's not only the president, it's not only the minister, but all of us don't behave as entrepreneurs. What do entrepreneurs do? An entrepreneur sets up as a brilliant idea. He wants to create value on a consistent basis. If you go to our public sector, is there anybody there who is thinking about creating value in Ghana on a consistent basis? No. Everybody by himself. And I think that if we don't begin to think and act and behave as entrepreneurs, which entrepreneur would destroy his business every 8 years and start over again? Right. But that's why we have in Ghana.
Right. I'm afraid we have press for time. So I'm going to say a big thank you to you. Dr. Ishmael Yamson was our guest on the Move segment tonight. We'll take a short break. We're back. Hello and welcome back to Business Focus, your weekly business and economic analysis program. I've just been joined in the studio by a member of GALSAC, the Ghana Association of Local Savings and Loans Companies. Nanaya Dodu joins me for a bit of education on the industry or in the sector. Thank you very much, Nanaya, for your time. So tell me a bit about GALSAC and your core mandate.
Okay, so GALSAC is an association, so savings and loans companies formed in 2008, okay, and then the core mandate is to elevate savings and loans companies to a position that will be considered as one of the best in financial intermediary in Africa.
I mean, financial intermediation.
Sorry, in Africa, yes. So that is the core mandate of the association.
And ever since your establishment, how well has it helped in cleaning up the mess we've seen in the microfinance industry?
Okay. So then we've had a lot of the members going out there to educate the public about the, you know, what, if you could remember, recently we had this saga, yes, scandal, the DKM saga, okay, yes. So we had some of our members going around to educate, or they've been on the TV stations to educate the public about the differences between the microfinance and then the savings and loans. So they are really educating the public so that they would also know that we are different from the microfinance. So
I know there's been a lot of effort over the years to try and protect the public from losing their investments, you know, in some of these companies. How well are you doing this? Okay,
so as I said, education. We are educating the public not to invest with any company at all. They should really investigate the companies they are dealing with. They shouldn't just go to a company and say that I want to invest. Know who is behind the company, the board members, if you like, and then like the people working there, so that you can trust the company you are going to work with and not just go there to work.
And what are the requirements for establishing a savings and loans company?
Okay, so the requirement is that you have to meet the minimum capital, which is 60 million. And then for savings and loans, you need to be fully licensed before you can operate, unlike the microfinances, exactly. Because for the microfinances, they are supposed to get provisional licenses and then meet certain requirements before they can give in the full license.
As an association, do you have any mechanisms in place to track feedback, you know, especially after starting this education? How are you able to track feedback to show that, listen, what you're doing is gaining ground?
Okay, so that's a very good question. You know, we deal with lots of companies out there, and then we try communicating with or interacting with these companies. So we go to them to ask how well their company is doing and all that, so that we can be able to get more from them, like through the interactions. They come to us, we interact with them, we go to them to also educate them on some of these things. So they give us the feedback, and we are able to know that indeed we are also, you know, doing our best as an association.
Have you set any targets for yourselves, like say in the next few years, let's say 2 to 3 years, you expect that by that time we should have limited cases of, you know, people being swindled in the microfinance industry?
It's very tough, but we'll get there. See, there are so many things we need to put in place. You can't just achieve something overnight. You need to plan, you need to strategize. Now, we really need to know the challenges out there to be able to get rid of all these things. You can't just get up and say, I want to do this over. No. So we really want to get there, but we will put structures in place. I can't give a time frame, but it would happen.
Okay, thank you very much, Nana Adoju, a member of GALSAC, the Ghana Association of Savings and Loans Companies. Thank you very much for joining us. And that's all for our show for this week. My name is Parkwesi Asari. Thanks very much for watching. We've got News 360 coming up shortly.